Hey guys, this is John over at CheatSheetPros.com, and today we're going to do a quick tutorial on how to read our NBA cheat sheets. Yes, when you first open this up, if you're new to our site, they are overwhelming. There are a ton of stats, but we're going to show you how to focus in on some key stats to find some plays for your core lineups. We're also going to come up with a process that you can do day by day using our sheet to find out who the core plays should be or some players that you should look into a little bit further. We're also going to talk about how to fade the chalk plays using our grade tab to be contrarian in your GPP tournaments. Two of the quick notes that I want to touch on are my stats are a little bit different than the other stats you see. So when I say ceiling and DVP, mine are a little bit different. So when I say ceiling, I'm looking at a player's last 10 games, what is their high? I don't want to know for the entire season because that's skewed. I want something that's a rolling number that's going to continually keep changing. The reason is, if you take a player who the first or second game of the year, they went into a triple overtime game and played 48 minutes, they're likely never going to do that again, so that's not an accurate ceiling that's obtainable for that player. So when I say ceiling, you'll see L10, that's the ceiling in their last 10 games, and it's a continually rolling number. Also, when I say DVP, I look at DVP to the position over the last 14 days or 2 weeks. The reason is, if you're 50 games into an NBA season and then somebody gets hurt and then the next 10 games it drastically changes, you're not going to see that in a season-long DVP. So by using it over the last 14 days, it can be a little skewed and give us bigger numbers, but it's going to give us more of a representation of what they're doing now in current time. So let's go ahead and get started.
Hey guys, we're taking a look today at the NBA cheat sheet, and this is the most recent version at the end of December 2019. If you followed our sheets for very long, you know that they constantly change. I get requests all the time of people saying, hey, can you add this, can you add that? If it's something that does add value and I can find it, I'll be happy to plug it in there for you because these sheets are made for you guys to help your DFS research. One thing I do ask is if you are going to request, hey, can you add this? Make sure you've got a link or know somewhere where I can get the data. I get a ton of requests asking a lot of wild things, and there is nowhere you can find that. So as long as you know where you can find it, let me know. You guys have already added field goal attempts, projected minutes. There's 3 or 4 things that you guys have added this year. So let's go ahead and get started breaking down the cheat sheet. I know this can be overwhelming, so I'm going to run through it really quick, and then we'll do some more in-depth videos later on. So again, here we have your names. Now this column here, I'm going to go ahead and highlight these. This is your, well here, let's do these. So these are your positions. So this is your DraftKings position, eligibility, FanDuel, the main position. This is what you want to look at when you're looking for DVP. This is where they play the largest percentage of time at. So this is a good likelihood of the DVP you want to track down. And then the projected starting position is over here. And if there's a V next to it, that means that it's verified. And then this is just your team, your opponent, Vegas implied team total, Vegas total for the game. This is our salary section. We have our DraftKings salary and our FanDuel salary, and then the difference. And then over here, this is what the sheet is sorted by when it's first sent out. This is the GPP algo. So this is trying to bring good GPP plays up to the top. So look at the top 10 here. You can usually pick a couple out that are going to go off and explode. Moving over, we have our recent form section, which is here. This is the last game versus the opponent. Does not always come into play. If it's a significant value to their current salary, it's highlighted in green. But something to see mid-season because some players play really good against certain teams. And then I've talked about my ceiling. I use the last 10 games, so you can see this is the last 10 high, which we call the ceiling here. And it's highlighted in green if it is significant, which you can see 77 points, 70, 76, etc. And then this is a value ratio off their salary today, not what it was when they scored it at that time. So this 77.3 points is based off of their current DK salary of 10.1K for 7.6X. So for GPP, you want them to have at least a 7X ceiling in the last 10 days. I like to see 8 or higher. And then this is just your last 2, last 4, last 6 game average and the value of that average on their current salary. If you don't like looking at all these numbers and it gives you a headache, I made a simple column here that's pretty self-explanatory. It says, this player's exploding. You can see he's been at a 5.8x average over his last 6 games, 6.3x over his last 4, and 7x over his last 2. So he's just exploding. And then we've got elite plus ceiling. Review is just kind of the catch-all default if it does not meet any other category. We've got safe floor. Player does not hit any value. Last 4 games, 5.5x value. This player's getting hot. This player's dropping off. So just some general descriptors for it. And then we're going to go over here. This is the projection category. It's self-explanatory. DraftKings, FanDuel, projected value based on the salary for the site. And this is a fun section here. So this section is your projected fantasy minutes, and I've highlighted it green if it's over 30, red if it's less than 25, and then if it's in the middle mark, it's yellow. So you can quickly see red, yellow, see some green in there. So green's good. That's the most projected minutes. And then you guys had requested bringing in field goal attempts. So we have 2 columns here. We have the field goal attempts for the season. So you can see how many shots a player's taking on average per game. And then I was able to pull the field goal attempts for the last 14 days, but it only pulls for the top 100 players. So if they are in the top 100, it's going to show their field goal attempts. So here, Anthony Davis, you can see is at 19.1 on the year, and now he's up to 22 over the last 14 days. So he's averaging 3 more shots per game. Same here, 14 to 17. So you can see if they're going up or if they're going down. And then we have our fantasy point per minute for the season, their usage number for the season. We have a grade that's just based of a mix of these numbers. And this is a fun one. This one got a lot of, when the cheat sheet first got going, this is one of the things that people looked at the most. So these are our lineup ratings. Of course, diamond is the highest, mini diamond is the second highest, and everything else is self-explanatory. So diamond plays, they meet all of the criteria that we're looking for a solid play. So one of the things that I noticed when I first made the sheet is if a player, let's say, met a certain number in categories A, B, C, and D, that player was always like top 10 value or always putting up a ton of points. So I made a criteria to where they would fall into diamond, mini diamond, all the way down. So if they meet every criteria, it comes in as a diamond play. If they meet all the criteria except for one, it comes in as a mini diamond play. And then fire, that means they've been doing really well. They're on fire. And then it'll say bad matchup, good matchup. This here is GPP play with a sneaky ceiling. So someone who's not necessarily playing a lot of minutes or doing well, but he's got a big ceiling if he does get those extra minutes. GPP review is the catch-all if it doesn't meet any other category. And then we've got value crusher, fire, bad matchup. This is always a fun one, monster matchup. And basically what that means, so Harrell, the team he's going up against, is giving up 55 DK points to his primary position over the last 14 days. And that's 25% of the total points they allow, and it's a plus 5% position advantage. So that's what monster matchup means. Here, this is just another player name, so you don't have to keep scrolling all the way over when you're looking at this side of the sheet. And this is my favorite one to look at that I look at daily, and it's DVP. And like I said, I take it over the last 14 days. And so these first 2 columns are the main ones you should look at. This is the amount of points allowed to this player's primary position over the last 14 days. So 58.3, 45.6, 53.9. So the green, the ones over 50, are good spots. Those are teams giving up a lot of points to that position. Now, the percentage of fantasy points, so what I did is I just took a quick calculation of the total fantasy points the opposing team is allowing versus this position to get a percentage, and then I did it again for the league average. So here, we're going to look at Brook Lopez. So this 58.3, that's 27.4% of the total points that team's allowing. So numbers are key here. So if it's less than 22%, it's pretty average. If you get 23, 24, 25 or higher, that's pretty significant. So if that game goes over and has a lot more points, a lot more are going to funnel to this position in theory. And then how you would look at these last two columns, which honestly, I don't look at these hardly ever. So league average to the same position is 51 points. They're giving up 58.3. So the difference is 8.3%. So he has a position advantage over the league average of the slate at 8.3%. Now the consistency column, this is a fun one, and I believe you guys had requested this, and this is how it got in. So over the last, would we do 20? I think it's the last 20 days or last 21 days. It ends up being about 10 games. This will show you how many games in that time period. It usually falls into about 10. And this is the percentage of times they hit 4x, 5x, 6x, 7x, or 8x value their salary today. So 4x, of course, is not beating value. So on DraftKings, we want 5x. And then 6x is good for us, but 7x and 8x are going to win us a GPP. That's kind of where we're going to be. So if you're looking at these players side by side who have good matchups, and let's say these are two completely different players, but let's pull Dennis Schroeder and Cantor up together. So you can see Cantor has a position advantage while Schroeder has a negative advantage. He has a tough matchup. But if you look over here on the recent performance, we're looking for 5x. So you can see he's got 66% of his games at 5x, and Cantor's only got 42%. So if you're playing cash, okay, we're going to go up here and take this 66%. 99% of them have hit 4x compared to 42, so that's a significant number there. However, if you're playing a GPP and you're looking at these two, you could say, hey, 14% of his games have hit 8x value. That's what I need to win a GPP, and Schroeder hasn't hit it at all, so I'm not going to use him. So either way you want to look at, you can even sort this column if you want and see. I'll kind of highlight these two and go down here and say, okay, like this one jumps out at me. 80% of his games are at least 5x. So he's got 90 at 4x, 80% at 5x, 40% at 6x, but none at 7x. So to me, that's cash. He's a cash game play because he's not going to kill you at 4x. 5x is good, 6x is good for cash. GPP, you need to get here, and he's not doing it. So that's Chris Middleton. I just see red across here, so I know it's a tough matchup, so he would not be in a GPP pool for me. But this is kind of fun to play with, and some of these players you can just look over here in the 8x and see how many times they're getting there. So here, Kuzma, now given it's only 4 games because he's been in and out and hurt and everything else, he has 50% hitting 7x, 25% hitting 8x, which 25% just means it's 1 of 4 games. Over here, we got home road splits. Later on in the season, I typically look at these a lot. Early in the season, I don't, but they're auto scrape, so I pull them in there. Sometimes you can look and see the difference in the minutes a person's playing on the road versus home. And ironically enough, sometimes a player plays more at home than he does on the road, and vice versa. Sometimes a certain guy will play more minutes on the road, and I have no idea why, but it happens. And so what we do, we look at the last 6 game average. So this is the last 6 home games, and this is the last 6 road games. So it's kind of a rolling number, and then I made a column of just the differences. And then over here, we've got pace of play. So this is pretty much self-explanatory. Possessions per game equals pace. So we got the season number, we got the last 3 number, home and road, and then we rank the season, we rank the last 3 so you can see if they're getting better, getting worse, etc., etc. This over here is our test algo, which I've renamed it the fire algo. So you can sort by this, and it's also going to give you players in monster spots that have been doing well. So the 2 things I'll do with my process on this sheet is I'll sort by GPP algo, and I'll look through the data on the top 10, top 15, and find the plays I like. And then I'll come over here and I'll sort by this fire algo, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll scroll back over and say, okay, well, who does this bring up to the top? You can see it's a lot of centers and point guards, and if I find players that are popping up in both of these, that's someone I usually want to give a good look at. You can also come over here and just sort by the DraftKings value, and it's going to show you, the projected value plays. So let's run on the game cap tab. I'm just going to hit this one real quick. I'm not going to go over the sports betting section because I don't want this video to get too long. But you come here to the bottom team, which is the home team, and you pick your team. Well, that was already on there, so we'll say Lakers. And it's going to populate all of these fields. Now, all of these stats you can use for sports betting or DFS. I'm using them for sports betting, so I'm not going to go over them. So this is what I'm going to focus on here, is down in this area. So it's going to show you the player, their position, salary, their projection, their averages, usage, fantasy points per minute, projected minutes, the DVP to that position. The DVP is also up here, so you can get a quick look at the total points a team is allowing and then how much it is for each position and then how it ranks. So if it's above league average, which league average is down here at the bottom, it's green. If it's below league average, it's red. So you can see here, LA Lakers, the shooting guard for Denver is only allowing 37.2 points. That's 10th. And then the league average is 42.5. Since that's below league average, that turns red, so you can just get a quick look at it. And we also have the Vegas total spread. We have the algo model. And we'll go over that in another video. And then we've got the DVP zone. So this is just going to show you the defense versus position. So we've got the team. So this is the player on the team, and this is the opponent. So these numbers are what the opponent here is giving up. So you would read this as Milwaukee. You would want to play a center because Indy is giving up 53.8 points. And then again, these are the total fantasy points allowed in this column. And then we have two pace columns. We have the projected pace using the last three numbers and projected pace using season numbers, so you can get a quick comparison of them. If you see this NA here, that just means it wasn't on the main slate, so it didn't get scraped. Most of the data is for main slate, so if there's a one-game showdown slate earlier in the day, it just doesn't pull the Vegas total and the Vegas line. So that's why we get the NA. And then all the other games, Vegas implied team total, Vegas line, pretty straightforward. Tiers, if you play tiers or pick 'em, you've seen this before, so this is just going to run through and show you all the different tiers, the players, and pretty much the stats we have in all the other sheets, but side by side. If you see them blanked out like this, like LeBron and Kawhi, today on December 22nd, they are ruled out and not playing, so there's no projection for them, so you can rule them out and then look at the other guys. So these are all tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then we also have a grade value for the players in that tier just based off the statistics that are here. So if you're in a hurry and you get down to like tier, let's say 3 tonight, and you're looking and you say, okay, everybody's at 90 except for Tatum's at 107.5, that's a huge difference, I'm going to put him in. Then you can go that route. We have a directions tab. So this was before the grade tab was made, and it's just a quick instructional screenshot, arrows, and explanation of what all the stats are on each page that I'm doing in the video. And then we have the grade tab. So the grade tab, let me see how long I'm going. Okay, so I'm going to run over this really quick because I'm going to do a separate video for the grade tab. But the grade tab is always sorted by projection value, typically here. And the grade tab, this is what we're going to use to find the chalk value that we like and the chalk value that we want to fade. So this is how we're going to be contrarian in a GPP. And so I'm going to do a separate video over the grade tab. I've already got one out there, but I've added some additional stuff in here, and I've done some tutorials on it. So I'm just going to take 60 seconds here and give you a quick rundown, and then get in there. Sorry, watching a football game. Okay, and so I'm going to give you a quick rundown here. So these are going to be your highest projected players. This is a custom projection we're working on. If you do use Fantasy Cruncher, you can copy this right here and paste it in the upload. And then we've got your Vegas Edge, your DVP Edge. I've done these on bases of 100, so it's kind of a grading scale of 0 to 100. Sometimes it goes a little over. And then we've got the Total Edge and projected minutes and minutes last 4. Real quick, if you've read any of my follow-ups on prior day sheets, these are the 3 columns you're going to pay attention to. So we're looking at people with an edge, total edge over 100 and minutes over 30, and look for those for your core. Also, if we're fading chalk, one of the things I compare is minute average last 4 versus projected minutes. If it's a player under 25 minutes, the variance of him actually getting those extra minutes is few and far between, so it's easier to fade that person than it is to lock them in. And then we've got the projections, and then last 4 average, last 4 value, and the last 10 ceiling are right here. If they average 5x over their last 4 of their current salary today, it highlights green. So you can see today there's a lot of them that have been doing well. And then I put it in a value mark as well. So blue is cold, green is good, and then 4.5 to 5 is kind of in the middle. It's not highlighted. And then I highlight their last 10 ceiling if they hit at least 8x. So these are good numbers to look at and see if you've got a player that you're determining if you want to fade him or not. This will show you. So for example, Zubac here, he's got a great total edge. So it's 153.9. So that means that his DVP is 54. His team total is 112. So that's good. Green, green. But he's only projected at 19 minutes. So there's a lot of variance there. He's been playing 18.5 minutes. So the odds of him getting 19 are pretty good. I wouldn't worry about that. But what would worry me here is in those 18.5 minutes, he's only averaging 14.6 points. So that's not great. That's not something that's going to win you a GPP. So I would be very careful with using him. Another place to look, and all these are self-explanatory. So over here, this is your fantasy point per minute. Now, what I've noticed recently is these top players that flop, they are usually trending down. So this is your fantasy points per minute for the season and fantasy points per minute over the last 4. So you can see, let's go down here. I wish I had the sheet up from last night to show you. I put a screenshot in the Facebook group. So you can see, like, for example, he's at 1.14 and he's down to 0.9. So it's roughly about a 20 to 23% drop off. But then you can see this player's at 1.6 down to 1.45. That's still pretty high, not a huge deal. But then here's a big one. So we've got 1.17 down to 0.8. And that is, okay, shocker, that's Zubac. And so you can see over those 18 minutes, like we said, he's only averaging 14.6 points, which is 4x value, which isn't great. But he's in a good spot, projected to play the same amount of minutes. This worries me, going down, 35 to 40% dip in fantasy points per minute. So just something to keep an eye on. But a good way to know if someone's doing better, you can see it jump up. So 1.08 to 1.29 is really good. And et cetera, on the way down. So here's a monster win. Okay, that's Giannis, shocker. But anyways, I'll do some more videos on the grade tab. I wanted to try to keep this under 20-25 minutes. This is the longest video that we will do because there's so many different tabs here. And we didn't touch on all of the grade tab and how to interpret it and determine the value plays in the process. And we also didn't touch on the sports betting section over here for the NBA sheet. But I wanted to give you a quick tutorial of what to look at to go ahead and get started. So it's free on Thursdays. If you guys are not in our Facebook group, we have a free group and a premium group. The free group, it doesn't cost anything. It is free, so there's no reason you shouldn't join it. And there's a link on the website for it. It's, I believe, facebook.com/groups/Haze, Haze, sheets /. So feel free to join that group. I put all of our sheets in there on Thursday for free for everybody to use and play with and ask questions and go from there. So come check us out. Even if you just pop in on Thursday, we still have a lot of chat going on in the free group as far as like we do showdown captain polls, Sunday night football polls. We do lots of screenshots of lineups. Lots of times if I have time, I'll take a screenshot of the optimal DraftKings and FanDuel lineup and put it in there just to generate some discussion and see if people like it, don't like it, and then we'll track how it does. I put a lot of information and tutorials in there on the cheat sheets on what works, what doesn't work, things I notice. I go back every day and kind of review the prior slate to see how it did, whether or not I play it. And anyways, come join our free group or try out premium for a month and give us a try. Thanks, guys.